everyone, this is Patrick from Casual Pro Wrestling, and you are watching a proof of concept, a showcase, but also a tutorial. One of the core features of CPW is its ability to use any 3D model as a wrestler, as long as it functions like a human. This has always been in there, but only since Halloween, where I introduced Scary McSpook, it has ever really been used. Now, 2 years after the early access release of the game, I can finally unlock this feature to the public. In this video, we'll walk through installing the necessary tooling, importing a 3D model, and making it ready for play in CPW. The main tool to import 3D models as wrestlers into CPW, and also for other advanced modding capabilities in the future, is the CPW Community Content Creation Package, short CCCP. By the way, I'm not Russian, I just thought it would be funny to name it like this. So this is a package for Unity Engine version 6, and as the game is a Unity game, this makes content authoring as smooth as it could be. A little disclaimer here. This video will not cover the basics of how to use Unity or import humanoid rigs in Unity. There are countless tutorials out there if you want to get into that. So what we need is Unity 6, which I previously installed here. And we'll want to create a Universal 3D project from the Unity Hub. It is important to use the Universal Render Pipeline, or short URP, because that's the only one supported by the game and also by the package. As Unity users will know, creating this project, which I name CCCP Showcase, creating that will take a little while. Once we're set, we'll hit out the package manager and install the community content creation package by choosing install package from git URL. Here we enter the URL that I'm going to share below the video and hit install. And after a little while, that is all ready. We're ready to go. So what we'll do now is we create a scene using the CPW Wrestler Studio template. What we need now, of course, is a 3D model that we want to import. In this video, we'll use the free Ortiz character from Mixamo, who apparently happens to be a luchador wrestling under the name of El Chupacabra. We'll download them right into the... So we'll download them in T-Pose as FBX and right into the assets directory of our new project. So that's that. So we'll import this model now using Unity standard workflow. And as I said earlier, the video will not explain Unity basics, so if you don't get it, get it. If you don't get it, figure it out. So we'll start with a little specialty of the Mixamo characters, and they have their textures embedded in the FBX file. So we'll use extract textures on the materials tab of the import settings. So we'll normally not use this because textures typically come separately. Now that we have this, what we want to do in any event is also extract materials. So we have some control over them. We'll have to make sure that they use the Universal Render Pipeline lit shader, which they already should do because we've created the URP project. I'm setting the workflow to specular here because I just prefer that. And let's tune down also the smoothness a little bit. So our character looks like this for now. So next we'll go to the rig. And for the guy to become a wrestler, they must feature a humanoid rig. So we'll switch the animation type to humanoid, hit apply. And we see a little check mark, which already tells us that Unity was successfully able to map the bones and the rig. But let's go into configure and verify this. So typically for Mixamo characters this works fine. And in these we can play around with the muscle tier to try a few things. It does looks fine. So as I said earlier, this is Unity standard workflow, no black magic going on here. Let's go to perspective and do make sure that the character's feet are on the ground, because otherwise they will be floating in the game, which we don't want. And we also want to make sure that this guy's pose is the T-pose, so we enforce T-pose here. And an A-pose may also work, but T-pose is heavily recommended. And especially some models come with embedded animations, and the initial pose may look a bit weird and it's not a T-pose. So what we also want to do is go to the animation tab here and just disable import animations. We won't be needing them. Finally, we want our wrestler to approximately match the size of CPW's own wrestlers. So for this, to be able to assert this, the Wrestler Studio has these reference models of the male and the female CPW creator wrestler bases. And what we're going to do now is drag our character in here, and let's put him at 000 and change the view to perspective. And what we see is the guy could be a little taller. So if your wrestler is too small or too large, do not increase the size using the scaling tool of Unity. This will change the transform, and that is not supported. So if you do that, you may have weird collision and ragdoll behavior in the game later. If you want to change the size of the guy, we'll do that in the here in this scale factor of the model importer. So I'll tune it up to 1.05 now, and let's see what happens. And that looks about fine to me. And now we are already set to set this guy up as a CPW wrestler. So CPW needs to know where several so-called points of interest are located on the wrestler's body, as well as the dimension of the main body parts. So this is used for the ragdolls and for positioning wrestlers during the animations. There's a total of 147 points in the game once, and that's a lot. And not all of them are needed right now, but they may be in the future. And to make the wrestler work as good as possible with the game, we'll take some time to set them up. There's no need to be overly accurate, however. So, and to make things easy, there's the wrestler creator component. And let's select this guy and create the wrestler component, wrestler creator component on them. You should see a bunch of things have been created, and these are scanners. So they help us to detect the needed points on the surface of the model, and we see several of them all over the body. Let's have a look. And when you create the component, these scanners are placed automatically based on the rig, and this already saves us a ton of work. But it's also not perfect. And green arrows generally indicate points that have been found successfully, but we also see some problems here, some red arrows. And if we look at the inspector, there's some hint that there's something wrong with the abdomen and the waist. So let's click on the waist handle. And we see a little instructions box on the top left of the scene view now, and it tells us how the selected scanner should be placed to work best for the game. And in this case, it tells us that the waist scanner should be placed around the belly, the lumbar region, and of course the waist. And that looks about right, but the issue here is that the scanner was created too small, and then the arrows never hit the surface of the model. So let's scale the waist scanner up a little bit, and there we go. Every scanner wants to find a single point or a group of points on the surface of the model. And now we've seen an example where we want to find 4 points of the waist. But we'll also see some others in a minute. Just because all the arrows are green, this doesn't mean that everything is perfect. The automatic scanner placement follows some heuristics and often fails for some body parts in particular, mainly fingers, mouth, chin and neck. And I'll be working on improving this in the future, possibly throwing some AI at it also, but it may never be perfect, so some manual work is going to be needed. As we've noticed already, the waist and abdominal regions may end up too small, and we've already fixed the waist. Now let's scale up the abdomen a bit, which seems to have the same problem of being too small. And there we go. That looks about right now. So let's go for the tip of the index finger, for any index finger for that matter. When I select it, you will notice this dashed line that goes to the tip of the other finger on the opposite side. So most characters will be symmetrical on the x-axis, and so scanners are linked as mirrors if applicable. And you only need to edit one side, and these changes will then apply to both sides, right? If you ever have a symmetrical model, an asymmetrical model, then you can click break mirror, and then you can and you have to edit these points separately. So the tip of the index finger was detected perfectly fine here, nothing to do. And this looks about the same for the tip of the thumb. So fingertips and thumb tips are hard to auto-detect if the model is not in a perfect T-pose, or if the proportions of the hands are somewhat strange, like not human. So I seem to have picked an easy example, but typically these things need adjustment. Now let's look at the chin. Let's scale up the scene view a little bit here because it's so small. Let's have a look at the chin, because the automatic placement often fails here as well. Let's zoom in a little bit, and indeed we see the chin could go further down, right? And so, as I said, there's no way to need to be overly accurate, but if there's ever going to be a move that aims a punch or something at the chin, you don't want it to hit the nose instead, just because the points are set up poorly. So take your time and go through all of the scanners, and let's look at the next scanner here. And here let's look at the instructions again. It should point at the throat, which is not really doing here. So what we do is here rotate it a bit to make that work better, right? So we do that, and let's look at some other points. I think the lats, right? The lats should definitely go down. The lats are not there, so we'll put them somewhere around here. If we look at the shoulders, they could be placed more to the inside, because we want this one arrow to point at the armpit of the wrestler. And to me, everything else looks kind of fine, judging by the quick view now. Everything else seems to be fine indeed. So when you are editing the leg scanners, make sure you don't make them too large, because what will happen if they are too large, then the scanner will suddenly mix up left and right leg, because it's finding the surface of the other leg, right? So make sure of that, to not get the legs mixed up. That would cause horrible collision later. So once we find that everything is good, we'll go for the next step. And in the wrestler creator component, which we put on the model here, we hit create a body description. So the body description is what CPW uses internally, and it has all the information from the scanners compiled in some way. So let's click that, and now what we see is the points of interest. They're somehow indicated now on the model, and we also see some boxes and some cylinders, which are placed around the main body part of the guy. And so this is the torso, the limbs, the head, and these define, of course, as you may guess, the ragdoll of the model in the game. So if we see anything really off here, we can always reiterate. These scanners are still there, but they are made invisible. once you click create body description. We can make them visible again by clicking this eye here. And if we want to do any edits, we can make our edits, and then we can hit replace body description and we'll recreate the body description. So there's always a way back. Once we're done with that, let's give the wrestler a meaningful name, because the name that's in the wrestler creator component here is the one that will appear in the game. So let's call him El Chupacabra, like it says it on his singlet. And now we create a prefab of the object just by dragging into the project browser, which apparently, yeah, does work. Good. So now how to get him in the game. CPW allows stuff to be installed in the form of content packs. And as an example, technically every wrestler that you create in Create a Wrestler mode is a content pack. And from here we can create one via the context menu. If you hit the context menu of the project tab, we'll see create, we'll see an entry casual pro wrestling and content pack definition. We want to do that. And let's call it like the wrestler, let's call it El Chupacabra. And so this is the name that will appear in the content screen of the game. So we'll say El Chupacabra for the display name of the content pack as well, and we'll put a nice description here. This is a showcase importing 3D models into CPW, let's say. And now we'll add our prefab. So this is content list, and we'll drag our newly created prefab, which is still called as CH43 non-PBR. Doesn't matter, it's just the object name. We'll drag them in here. And we'll see that we add them to the content pack. I really recommend to have only one wrestler per content pack. If you have different retextures of the same wrestler, by all means it should be fine to put them all in a single content pack, but if you have different wrestlers altogether, put them in separate content packs. So the game won't hinder you to pack as many different wrestlers in a single content pack as you want, but having one wrestler per pack allows players to download them individually later from the Steam Workshop. So finally, let's hit export. And this fails, and this is something I wanted to show in the video because it's a Unity limitation. We are technically going to build an asset bundle, and that fails unless the scene has been saved. So let's just do that, and let's call it scene.unity and save it somewhere. It doesn't really matter what you name it. Now we can hit export. Now what happens is it creates the asset bundle, and that may take a while if you do it the first time. For this video, you can imagine I have prepared it, and so it went very fast. It can take a minute. When it's done, the export directory will be opened automatically, and this is already where CPW needs it to be detected. So it's in the creations directory that also contains your Create a Wrestler mode creations if you have any. So great, let's start the game. The main menu should already tell us that there's new content installed. So let's go to the content menu, and here we have El Chupacabra in the list. And CPW defaults to disabling installed newly installed content. So let's activate it and hit apply. Now let's go to Create a Wrestler, and we already see that the game has rendered a nice graphic of El Chupacabra here. Now, of course, we want to give him a moveset and edit the attributes and also the theme song. So let's hit edit. And this brings us to a restricted Create Wrestler mode, so especially for imported wrestlers. So we can only edit a few things here. And so let's first edit his attributes, and let's say he's a bit strong, but let's say he's very tough. It's kind of bulky, so it's probably not the fastest. He may not have too much stamina, I don't know. Let's say he's a little skilled, and let's say he has also some charisma. But yeah, let's make him stronger. I think he's very bulky, so it's strength is probably his strength. So for import wrestlers, we can freely edit the weight, which is not possible for the stock wrestlers. And this default weight was computed from the body proportions, but I think that 570 pounds may be a tad too much. Let's go for something like, I don't know, 400 pounds. And now, of course, let's edit his. Let's give him an entrance theme maybe first. Let's do something like Lucha Libre, right? That should fine. Yeah, that should do. That sounds fine. Go with this one. And now let's go to the moves menu, and the move preview will now already give us a little hint as to how this guy will look in the game, right? So I should do a suplex. I'll, for the sake of keeping this video short, I'll just copy the moves of somebody else, and let's just take I don't know, El Kingo for that. And now I should have some moves, right? Yeah, looks nice. Not enough. Some grapple moves like a suplex. Okay, right. That should do it. And now let's save and exit. All done. Time to have a match, right? So now we could select him from the wrestler selection here and make him have a match against himself.
One, two, one.
Wow. Alright, so like any content pack, for example, Wrestlers from Create Wrestler mode, you can now share your imported models to the Steam Workshop. And all we gotta do is enter this content screen, select El Chupacabra, and now click share. And let's do it friends only for now, for this video. We'll hit share, and now it just does its thing. And well, that's how I want to round up this video. Now we can see him here on Steam Workshop. So yeah, that's it for this video. Let's round it up. I want to say this is going to be an exciting addition to CPW, and I hope that it that the workshop will fill up with crazy stuff in no time. Admittedly, I've worked a long time on this feature now, and there's been personal stuff going on. I'm not going to bore you with all the details. Anyhow, I will now start to really focus on gameplay now that this feature is in, because this is something I really wanted to have in there. Anyway, expect some new gameplay updates throughout the coming months, more frequently than in the past half year. And well, have fun with this. See you around.